Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 5 of the semester, and I hope that all of you are doing well. You're keeping us all safe, and at the same time, you are keeping up with your studies as well. So, for week 5, we will first of all go and have a look at our to-do lists for the week. So, this week, you are to attend your Zoom-based lecture class, which you are doing at the moment. Moreover, please also go over and attempt your lecture-based quiz, probably by the end of the week, and attempt your tutorial questions, which will be discussed in our tutorial and lab discussion class, which is on Thursday, and also start preparing for your mid-semester exams, which is exactly 2 weeks from now. So your mid-semester exams is in week 7, so please ensure to start preparing for it. Now, what all we tested, everything from week 1 all the way down to week 6. Very keen focus on your quiz questions, lecture-based quiz questions, your tutorials, and the important things that I have been telling you to keep note of in the class. Apart from that, if you're revising all I am mentioning at the moment, you should be able to do well. Now, moreover, please note that last week Friday, I had given out a assessment alert. Your major project 10% has already been released under my assessment section of the Moodle shell. I hope you had a look at it. Now, this project is massive. Why massive? Because the structure and the way this course has been designed, so we will try to cover all aspects of the course in this major project. So that's why it is called a major project. It is 10% towards your coursework. Now you are requested to go over the question adhere to all the instructions provided. So we will be going over our major project question just after, let's say, within about 2 or 3 minutes time, and then we'll go over our lecture notes. Now, before that, some other reminders. Please ensure, now I had a good look at the lecture-based quiz feedback from your end in terms of how many of you are attempting the lecture-based quiz or not. Now, half the class is still not yet, they have not yet attempted the very first lecture-based quiz. So lecture quiz 1, lecture 1 quiz, lecture 2, lecture 3, lecture 4 quizzes. More than half of the class is yet to attempt it. Please do not drag it for a very long period of time. Try to ensure you get all the lecture-based quizzes from week 1 to week 6 submitted and done before your mid-semester break. Okay, so that you come the other half of the semester, things will be very much easy for you. Now, let's go over my assessment section of the Moodle shell. You have your major project question and your major project. Now, the due date is on the 31st of October. So you have quite a lot of time. So at the moment, if you would look at the date, today is the 23rd of August. So August, September, October. So you have more than 2 months to actually go and do your project. So 2 months, more than 2 months, approximately about 9 to 10 weeks, including your mid-semester break. So you have ample of time to work on your project. However, this project is not a short project, it's quite lengthy. So therefore, I have given you more than enough time to submit. Now, the cutoff time is on the 5th of November. I do hope that you understand what cutoff time is. The due date is 31st of October. That means that's the date when the assignment is actually due. However, due to certain reasons, if you are not able to submit your assessment, so you will have time till the 5th of November. However, 10% deduction the additional day of late submitting. So that means if you take full 5 days to submit 5th of November, so there's a deduction of 50% of marks. So you need to ensure that you submit on time. Should you be facing any genuine problem or genuine issues, you can always let me know. But do not tell me after the due date. You have to tell me before the due date. But then you have about more than 2 months to actually submit. So I don't expect you to come up with excuses for late submissions. Now, also note this, if you would have a look at your question again, or let's go and have a look at the question. Total marks is 100, carries 10% towards your coursework. Now, due date again is on the 31st of October. So the entire project is basically on system analysis and design. So you are given a scenario. So based on scenario, you have to do certain amount of work. So let's go and read over it. Okay, brick and mortar types of businesses have gone through a nightmare with the global pandemic COVID-19 hitting the shores of Fiji. By the way, when you talk about brick and mortar types of business, these are the physical shops. Okay, so the shops that you have in town, they are called brick and mortar. The opposite of brick and mortar would be e-businesses, electronic businesses. These businesses have struggled to operate and generate enough revenue to pay their employees and pay all necessary bills. Counting the rate or amount of profits for a couple of months has been a dream for Red Leaves Fiji Limited. So Red Leaves Fiji Limited, this is this is where the entire situation is based on this specific company, Red Leaves. So we'll go and see what Red Leaves do. So far, the information from paragraph 1 is that Red Leaves Fiji Limited is a brick and mortar type of business. That means they are a physical shop. Now, Red Leaves Fiji Limited is a locally owned shop that specializes in clothing and footwear. With frequent lockdowns and reduced income in the economy, it is operating at a loss. The organization owner, Mr. Ben Leo, decides to close out the shop due to severe loss. However, that does not take away the bank loan the organization had undertaken 2 years ago. Moreover, a large amount of stock remains that may be difficult to sell at a wholesale rate to gain adequate returns. So, second paragraph, we are given a brief description of what Red Leaves Fiji Limited is, or what do they do. So this is a company which specializes in clothing and footwear. Okay, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the business is going through a major loss. Now, the business can close out. However, they have a loan in the bank, which they had taken 2 years ago. Moreover, they have a large amount of remaining stocks, which may be difficult for them to sell at a wholesale rate. Why? Because nobody might buy, nobody might, or no organization might actually go and buy that particular stock, and they will not be able to get adequate returns to pay off the loan. Now, that paragraph. Mr. Ben Leo is an IT graduate and remembers the concept of electronic business from his university courses. After a bit of structured and unstructured brainstorming with his family and employees, Mr. Leo decides to give it a try in converting his brick and mortar business to an electronic business. So what the organization Red Leaves Fiji Limited, what they decide to do is convert their physical shop into an electronic business. And how did they do it? They did some structured and unstructured brainstorming. So when you talk about unstructured brainstorming, is like whatever idea that keeps on coming in your mind, you speak it out. Okay, let others hear your ideas. Structured is you have a set of rules or set of conditions with those type of ideas that come in. So when you have an idea come in, you have to first of all evaluate whether it meets the condition that is already in place. So that's structured. Unstructured, no conditions. So after a bit of brainstorming, they came up with these following ideas. Now that's quite a lot of ideas, so we'll read it out. First is build a website for the business. The cost of building the website is $1,000. A consultant is hired. Okay, so we know that they would be making a website, so a consultant will be hired, and the consultant's charge is $1,000 for the entire website. Take photographs of all the products, each item to be photographed from different angles, allowing more than enough visuals. So next thing they will do is take photograph of all the products that they have in stock, and take photographs from all different elevations and angles that will give more than enough visuals for any customers to go and purchase the item. All products are to be advertised in the website, on the website rather. Engage in intensive social media marketing. So Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. Now YouTube through the use of videos. The website will not cater for a payment engine. So what is a payment engine? Payment engine is basically that particular feature on an e-commerce website that allows individuals to process their credit cards or to process their payments. So the website will not cater for it. Okay, as Mr. Leo wishes not to incur any massive additional costs. All transactions are to be carried out via M-Pesa or cash purchases. So M-Pesa transactions or cash purchases will only be accounted for. Now, how come cash purchases, since it's an electronic business? So let's read on and see how it works. Website to be optimized via a consultant. So optimize in terms of search engine optimization or in terms of website AdWording. Now do go and search about what is search engine optimization or what does AdWording stands for. Okay, the current quote to hire a consultant would occur Fijian $100 per month. So $100 per month to hire a consultant for optimization of the website. The consultant has offered to enhance all product pictures free of charge. So says there's some freebies coming in as well. Consultant has agreed to enhance all the pictures. So that's better for the organization. Website to be launched via a hosting company, justhost.com. The total cost of hosting the domain service is $200 per year. Okay, so the website will be designed, it will be built. Now, designing and building are two different phases. After it's designed, it's built, it will be hosted with a company. So with hosting services, there is two kinds of service that you'll be looking for. First one is hosting itself, and the other one is domain. Hosting is whereby you will store your website's files in a specific server. So you'll be charged for that server space that you'll be occupying. Domain service is, for example, www.facebook.com. So .com is the domain. So your full domain name, facebook.com. So that's what you'll be charged. So in this case, it may be anything that the organization you want to, for example, redleavesfiji.com or redleavesfiji.net. Okay, so that is $200 per year. Now do take into account that for hosting companies, it's $200 per year. So every year they have a renewal fee of $200. Now customers will view the products online via the website. Should a customer wish to buy the item, they will be directed to a contact us page form. Okay, so phone details of the customer will be retrieved and contacted accordingly. So we were thinking, how will the customer pay to the user? M-Pesa sits at electronic business. So the customers will view the products on the website. So as soon as they are, let's say they want to buy a product, so probably it will have buy a product now. So as soon as the customer will go and click on buy a product now, click on that particular button, it will direct them to the contact us form, wherever the customer will need to fill in the details and submit. So once they submit, the phone details would be retrieved and the customers will be contacted by Red Leaves Fiji Limited. Okay, so that's how I have a feeling. Okay, so that's how I have a feeling that this business will actually go and process the M-Pesa details. Customers residing within 5-kilometer range will have the items delivered free of charge. Customers outside the range of 5 kilometers will be charged an additional $150 for every kilometer, hence covering up for extra fuel costs. Okay, so customers that are within the radius of 5 kilometers, so their item will be delivered for free. And those who are outside the 5 kilometers, so for every kilometer, $1.50 additional would be charged. So that means if someone is living 7 kilometers away, so they will be charged, that's 150 times 2, that's $3, so $3 they will be charged for it in terms of the delivery cost. All customers shall be asked to pay via M-Pesa or cash upon delivery. So M-Pesa, I hope you know how M-Pesa is being used. If not, try doing some practicing or trial and error with M-Pesa, or the customers can pay cash. Now, how would they pay cash? Once the item is going to deliver to them, once they look at the item, they agree to buy it, they like it, they can actually go and view it. Now, I think this is even more preferred now. Generally, if you buy things from an overseas website, you cannot view the products physically. Over here, you can actually view the products physically once it's delivered to you. So if you feel the product has any problems or issues, you can get it sorted there and then, rather than you getting the item and then you do not like it and then you go into a long range of conversation to actually get it sorted. So I think this is even better. Moreover, customers may also pay via FPOS machines. Now, this is even better then. So FPOS machines where you can actually process your debit cards. Let's say a customer does not have enough cash on them and they would like to pay via their BSP debit card or even a Visa card, so they can pay it via FPOS machine. Now, how will the FPOS machine or wherever it will be installed in every delivery vehicles. Now do note that FPOS machines, they are portable machines. All you have to do is you have to charge them and you can carry it around, and they work on network basis. Now that network is connected to the use of a SIM card. Generally it has a SIM card in the machines. So what it can be done is it can be charged in the vehicle, it can be carried around. I've seen some people here in Fiji, especially those who are running those rental car companies, if they would go and deliver the rental car to their customers, so they carry these FPOS machines with them. So if the customer would like to use their Visa card, debit card, or credit card, whatsoever, they can run it through the FPOS machines. Now, upon delivery, receipts shall be handed to the customer. Customers who wish to purchase items via social media platforms will be contacted via respective social media communication systems through the use of IM, instant messaging, or messages and comments. So social media, because since the organization is also doing intensive social media marketing, there you go. Okay, so all customers that are retrieved from social media, so they will be contacted through the use of social media communication systems. Now, once sold, a product is sold, the item is taken off the website via the CMS. CMS is the content management system. Content management system is an easy platform for you to actually go and edit your websites or update your websites. Mr. Leo has enough knowledge to update the website via the CMS. If you want to know really what CMS looks like, what does it actually do, Google it up, okay, and you should be able to know it more properly. Mr. Leo decides to install a GPS in the delivery vehicle to track events. Now, GPS, Global Positioning Systems, what does it do? It tracks where your car actually moves or where it is going. Let's say, what could be some possible reasons why a GPS is installed? Let's say there's a delivery guy who tends to chew up a lot of fuel or unnecessary running around here and there. That could be used for tracking. Moreover, also with the GPS, it may give you the amount of kilometers you've traveled from location A to location B. So if it's more than 5 kilometers, additional charges applied in the delivery cost. The cost of installing a GPS is $150 initial setup, $7 per month of recharging the SIM. Now, GPS devices have SIM card slots in them. That's how they are able to work, okay, through the use of SIM cards, and $50 per year for server related costs. So there's a lot of costs involved. First of all, the initial machine to be set up in a car is $150, and then $7 per month of recharging the SIM. Now, why the recharge? Like I mentioned, they don't run SIM cards, they need mobile data to work in. So $7 per month, so 7 times 12 gives you a total of 84. So $84 per year, and a $50 per year for server related costs. So another additional payment of $50 to give it to the GPS company. Now, if you would want to know, in actual, do we have GPS companies here in Fiji? Yes, we have plenty of them, Vodafone being the major provider of GPS solutions in Fiji. The GPS will also give a reconfirm or a reconfirmation of additional delivery costs. So like I mentioned, so it can track the distance you have traveled from location A to location B. Red Leaves Fiji Limited currently sell items via social media platforms. Oh, so they currently do sell items over social media platforms. The average sale per month is $450. Okay, so that means per month they are able to get a current sale of $450, and the average cost incurred in delivery is $50. So that means the profits of our social media is $400. So $450 for sale, $50 for delivery. Okay, now why so less? It could be more. I think why so less at the moment is because this $50 caters for only products delivered to customers within the 5-kilometer range, because the additional customers who are living outside the 5-kilometer range, they would be paying for additional kilometer. I think this is already being implemented beforehand. Mr. Leo expects to triple his revenue from the new website. So that's his expected revenue, to triple it up. Red Leaves Fiji Limited also pays a monthly loan of Fijian $425. Okay, so this is the loan that they had taken 2 years back. The loan covered up the cost for the existing stock. Okay, so the loan was taken for the stock. So this becomes an ongoing expense or operating expense for the business. The total remaining loan is $8,000. So total is $8,000 remaining. So you can do the math. So $8,000 divided by 425. So that will give you the number of months in which the loan is remaining. Now, requirements. Work in groups of 3 max. So you can have a group maximum of 3 members. Now, if you do not have 3 members with you, you are permitted to work in pairs or individually. So the choice is yours. But here's the thing. Once we go down, you'll see the amount of work that you have to do. And if you're doing it individually, it's going to wreck your nerve. Okay. 2, you are to study the e-business transition of Red Leaves Fiji Limited. That means study this carefully. And then perform a preliminary analysis. So in preliminary analysis, these are the things that you are supposed to do. Discussion about the existing nature of the business, that's 2 marks. Problems with the existing system or business, that's 3 marks. In-depth analysis of the proposed solution, 5 marks. So this is the proposed solution. Carry out feasibility studies. So feasibility studies are of 4 types. What are they? Operational, economic, technical, schedule. So there's 8 marks each, so 2 marks for each type of feasibility study. Possible information system development method. So what method are going to be used? Agile, JED, RED, or a traditional SDLC. Perform data modeling requirements. Now this step or this entire phase of steps is very important because it carries most marks. And also these are the places where you have a lot of diagrams, you have calculations coming in. First of all, data collection. So how are you going to collect your data? Remember last week we were discussing about some methods of data collection. So you can use those over here. Probably you can, yeah, just try see which one matches the most. I'm trying my best not to actually reveal the answers. So study last week's lecture notes as well. See which type of data techniques that you can actually imply to this particular scenario. And then WBS, work breakdown structure. Then you are supposed to have a Gantt chart to reflect on scheduling. Now, how Gantt chart is done or how do we make Gantt charts? We will be talking about that in this week's lecture class. That's 5 marks, by the way. Per chart is 5 marks as well. So based on your WBS, you should be able to make a Gantt chart, carries 5 marks. You have data flow diagram. Data flow diagram is 7 marks. We will be looking at data flow diagram after the mid-semester break. You have use case diagrams, which is 10 marks. Now, today's lecture notes is on use case diagrams, and we'll start looking at use case diagrams in next week's class. And then TCO, which is total cost of ownership. We have to calculate that, carries 5 marks. And finally, under modeling requirements, you have payback analysis. That means you need to analyze whether the business will get revenue or will they go through a loss while you're performing the payback analysis. So that carries 5 marks as well. After that, you have risk analysis and management. So some of the risk identification analysis techniques carries 2 marks, and risk mitigation plan, which carries 3 marks. Then you are supposed to design the system, okay, system design, logical model of the system. That's where you need to come up with a logical model. And then system implementation. So how would you actually go around implementing the system? In this case, it's just a website. System maintenance carries 5 marks. Marketing strategy. Now, marketing strategy, generally, it is not part of the SDLC phase, but since this is a type of a business which needs a lot of marketing. Now, when you create a website, that's not done. You have to market your website. When you're doing business through the use of social media, you have to do a lot of marketing. So there are some marketing strategies which you will need to go and research, find out, and have adequate information in place. Now, please do not put in guest line answers for marketing strategy. Now, I will tell you very well, I'm very well versed with search engine optimization techniques, website analysis, website analytics, marketing strategies, okay? So you'll have to do proper research. Do not put down any form of dummy answers, okay, thinking that, okay, I will give you some sort of marks. Now, if you're not putting it reasonable and proper marketing strategies, I will not give you good marks. Okay, so make sure, and also remember, do not treat this as just an assignment. Treat this like a learning project. The reason being why I've chosen a topic of electronic business. Generally, in previous major projects for CIN603, students used to be given a free option to go and choose whatever business types they want to. Okay, and they would be asked to do the same thing that you are very much similar to the things that you are asked to do in this major project. But why I've chosen e-business is that this is going to be the normal trend now. This is going to be the new normal all around electronic business. So I want you to actually go and do this assignment properly and learn a lot of things. Learn how websites are done. Now you have to learn how websites actually develop, how they're hosted, how the domain services are bought, and how the websites go live. So that's why you have to place it within system implementation. Okay, so that's what I'm expecting you to do. Learn how websites are actually developed, how they are built, how they are hosted online, how the domain services are bought, and how you go on marketing your websites. Now, with marketing strategy, you also need to ensure that the business is marketing their products or setting their products to social media as well. So how do you market the products on these different social media platforms? Now, I think it's given somewhere. Yeah, so these are the different platforms. So you need to prepare a marketing plan for all these individually, because all these platforms, they function differently as well. They're not the same. Now, how you would market a product on Facebook would be different from how you market a product on Instagram. Now, if you really want to know how to do things, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, go on Pinterest, go on YouTube, create a dummy business account, and try doing it. Try working it out. Or if you have some products at home which you feel that could be sold, try doing it. That's the best experience that you can count it in. And actually, if you would, at the end of the project, probably somewhere in the reference section, if you actually provide me the dummy links for pages, I might reconsider giving you some bonus marks. Okay, so the main purpose here is not to just do the assignment for the sake of it, is for the purpose to learn and move on with the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is moving on. It's just that we are being very laid back. We are very laid back. Generally, it is a situation here. Most people in our country, they are very laid back. So people generally say, oh, there's a lot of money in countries like Australia and New Zealand. They get paid so much. People can afford this and that. Now we can also afford it here. We can also earn the same amount of money. But the thing is this, they work hard. They work very, very hard. We don't work 50% hard as most of those individuals out in those overseas countries. So if you start putting in that amount of work and effort, you can actually get the same amount of income as they are getting. All right. So references and appendix. Now references and appendix do not carry any marks, but if I feel that you have used materials from the web and you have not referenced it or not used it in your appendix, you may end up losing some marks. Okay. Now there are some conditions attached. We'll read those. Submission. Submit the major project in a Word document. Please ensure it is submitted in a Word document. So you'll have a lot of graphs. You'll have a lot of charts. For example, Gantt chart, you will be working in Microsoft Excel. Same thing with per chart as well. So you'll have to copy and paste, or you can make a snapshot of it and then paste it in the Word document. Okay. So in the submission box, this is the submission box here, major project 10%. Okay. And adhere to the due date and the cutoff dates. Backup, make regular backups for your assignment to avoid disappointments. Okay, always try to keep a backup while you're working on it. Submitting late, start early. Also, when you finish, don't hold on to your assignment till the last moment. As soon as you are satisfied with it, submit it. Plagiarism refers to submitting or presenting someone else's work, writing, invention, or other creative work as his or her own work, writing, invention, or other creative work. Plagiarism may exist in the following forms. So these are the ways in which you can plagiarize somebody's work. The work submitted was done in part or whole by an individual, other than the one submitting or presenting the work. The whole work or parts of it are copied from another source without due reference. Now, also please note this: when you are getting some materials from the web, you are not supposed to directly quote it even. You're supposed to reword it, But if the idea is not yours, it's somebody else's, you are supposed to give the reference for it. Sometimes what I generally see is students would quote or directly copy it from the web and put a reference in the reference section. Now that's still wrong. When you are using somebody else's work, you are supposed to coin up the words on your own, and then you are supposed to give the reference. If you're directly copying and pasting, that's also wrong. All right, so please ensure you take a good notice at this. A student submits in one course work that has already been submitted in another course without prior arrangement with both course lecturers. It's essential that you avoid plagiarism. Not only do you expose yourself to possibly serious disciplinary consequences, but you'll also cheat yourself on a proper understanding of the course. Okay, now this is the case which might not happen here, because I don't think you'll get a very similar project in any other course. Moreover, this assessment has never been given. I made the assignment just 2 weeks ago. Okay, so this very same topic has not been given out to any students before. This is original work, by the way. All right, so I don't think you'll get it from anywhere else. The rate accepted of plagiarism for this assessment is 20%. Okay, so your plagiarism tenanting rate, the max that you can go is 20%. Marks shall be deducted for plagiarism rates above 20%. Any assessment with a plagiarism rate of 50% or more shall not be accepted. That means if your tenanting rate hits 50%, I will not accept your project. Okay, students shall be given one more attempt to resubmit within a time frame of 48 hours. So if your project, okay, it goes, let's say 51% or even 50%, I will alert you to the use of an email and tell you that you have to resubmit your project, and the time frame that will be given is 48 hours, 2 more days. Failure to submit or failure to improve the plagiarism rate, the student shall be rewarded a mark of 0. Okay, so this is how your assessment will be, and this is a proper theory-based assessments that you should start expecting in all your level 6 and above courses. Okay, so yeah, any questions, any queries, anyone? Now, whom to group, how to group, that is something I'll leave it to you. You can contact each other through the use of the participant list and form groups of your own. All right, so maximum is 3, minimum you can have it individually, you can get it done individually if you like to, or in pairs, not more than 3. If there's a case whereby an individual is left out, okay, so what is our total number in the class? Let me just see that very, very quickly. We have a total of 15 students in the class. Participants, this is 17. One is me and the other one is the auditing lecturer. So there's about 15 in the class. So 5 3 is 15. You can easily have 5 groups. If you go in pairs, so the group number will increase. Any questions, anyone? Now here's the thing. I'll give you 4 minutes. It's 12:36. I'll give you time till 12:40. Have a look at the question once again. Okay, read through it or go through it. If you have any questions or queries, you may ask. You have 4 minutes with you. Are there any participants in the class who have already formed their group? You have a group there ready with you? Is there anyone who has already started with the project? As soon as you form your groups, start doing your project. This will take a lot of time, by the way, especially with the modeling section, this portion. Now, there are some things that we are yet to cover it in the class. For example, Gantt chart, you will learn it this week. But chart you've already covered. Work breakdown structure we've already covered. Data collection we've already covered. How do you discuss the nature of the business, the problems, in-depth analysis of proposed solution, feasibility studies, possible information system development method. Now from here all the way down till WBS is fully covered. We have learned about pie chart already, so that's also covered. Now you cannot draw your pie chart unless and until you have made your work breakdown structure. So therefore, you have to work on this first. Gantt chart, you'll learn it this week, so that will be covered. All this, you can start working on it. Now, after that, you will learn about Gantt chart. Then next week is use case diagram. Okay, so use case, and next week is week 6. Week 7, we'll also cover use case. We'll have a mid-semester break. Come week 8, we'll start looking at data flow diagram. And after that, within a week or so, we will look at TCO and payback analysis. All these, they go together, these two. Risk identification analysis, risk mitigation plan, we've also covered it up in the class. So you can work on it. By the way, we've also worked on logical model of the system. Now over here, to design the system, to implement, you need to know how website development actually takes place. What are some of the processes? If you're able to know it, if you're able to learn it, you should be able to do these two very, very properly. At the same time, system maintenance should also be easy for you. So if you dedicate, let's say, close to about 30 minutes to 1 hour per day, the entire thing could be completed within 2 weeks' time. You have 2 months on you. Any questions, anyone? We still have a minute with you. No questions? If no questions, let's continue with our lecture notes. Now, today's lecture notes, we will be looking at the theoretical concepts of use case modeling or use case diagrams. Now, the slides are not too lengthy, it's just plain simple 19 slides. So we will be able to cover this within about 30 minutes or even less. Okay. However, should we have ample time left, what we'll do is we'll go and discuss the per chart exercise from last week. We'll go and discuss those. Okay, so that come our tutorial and lab class on Thursday, 1 hour will be for tutorial, and the other remaining 40 to 50 minutes, we can easily use it for our Gantt chart. All right, now use case modeling. Object modeling with the unified modeling language. Unified modeling language is UML. That's what the abbreviation stands for. Okay, unified modeling language. That means what you're doing is you are basically, okay, let's go and read it out. The UML uses a set of symbols to represent graphically the various components and relationships within a system. It mainly is used to support object-oriented system analysis and to develop object models. Now, UML, basically it uses a set of graphically based symbols to represent a system. That means a system, an information system, is represented through the use of graphical symbols. Now, it's graphical. Now, that's what it does. The system is represented through symbols. Also, not just the system, the components are also represented within the system. And the major thing is what is the relationship between each and every component within a system. So you're looking at a bigger picture. For instance, you're looking at a house. Let's say the house is your system. You're looking at the structure of the house. And then within the structure of the house, you want to see how many rooms are in the house. So once you have seen how many rooms in the house, you want to see where is the pathway to link one room to the other. Likewise, what UML does, it represents a system through the use of graphics or symbols. And within a system, it wants to see what all are the components and what is the relationship between those components. Now, there's a new term here, is it is mainly used to support object-oriented systems. Now, when you talk about the word object-oriented, now object-oriented basically refers to a programming language. It refers to a system or a software methodology that is built on the concept of logical objects. So what happens is you have some objects that basically goes around representing a system, a software, or a programming language. Now, it works through the creation, utilization, and manipulation of reusable objects to perform a specific task, process, and objectives. Okay, so that's object-oriented. Now, simple way to make you think is object-oriented models or systems or UML diagrams. We have symbols, let's say rectangles, squares, circles, arrows, so forth. And these are used to represent a system, what all components are in there, and how or in what way are they interconnected to one another. That represents the relationship. Okay, so that's an UML diagram and object-oriented. Now, one of the most famous or frequently used UML diagrams is use cases. So use case, it is a type of a UML diagram. Now, a use case depicts a set of activities that produce some output result. Each use case describes how an external user triggers an event to which the system must respond. With this type of event-driven modeling, everything in the system can be thought of as a response to some triggering event. Creation of use cases is often done as a part of interview session with users or a part of JED sessions. And to sum this up in a very, very simple way, you have UML diagrams or UML languages or UML models, so forth, whatever, they all mean the same thing. So one of the types of UML is use case. So use case is generally used in JED sessions, joint application development sessions. Now within JED sessions, you have users. Remember, JED sessions, they make use of users, so users become part of the development process. So what happens is that once you have interviewed the users, then you actually go and start building up a model in terms of how the users will interact with the system. Okay, so let me repeat that. You have gone around using the system development methodology as JED. Now within JED, the users, what they do is they become part of the development team, or they play an active role in it. So you will go around and interview the users. So once you've interviewed the users, then you'll actually build up a plan or a model in terms of how a user might go and interact with the system. So how do you do it? You actually do it through the use of use case diagrams. Moreover, you must need to know that use case, the major purpose is it describes how users will and how they actually interact with the system. That's the main purpose behind use case. Next up, we will look at some of the elements of use cases. What things are there in use case? So basic information, each use case has a name and number and brief description. The priority may be assigned to indicate the relative significance. The actor refers to a person, another system, or a hardware device that interacts with the system to achieve a useful goal. The trigger for the use case, the event that causes the use case to begin. Okay, let me quickly go and summarize important things only. So if we look at the elements of use case, you have three important things that we must note that plays a key role. First of all, you need to have a use case itself. So with the use case, there are few things associated with it. The common thing is the use case generally has a name and it has a description to it. Next up, you have an actor. So the actor can be in the form of a person. You know, a person can interact with the system. A hardware, it can interact, hardware device, it can interact with the system, or in some cases, you have one system that interacts with another system. So your actor can be either of these three: a person, another system, or hardware device. Now, another thing that you have is finally the trigger. So the trigger is what causes the use case to begin. The triggers are basically scenarios. For example, I have a system and I want to place an order for a product. So placing an order basically triggers the use case. Now you'll get to know more about it, or you'll get more familiarized with it once we actually start drawing the use case diagrams. But at the moment, what I need you to know, and these three things are important, okay, you should know what use case is, you should also know what UML is, and you should know that the basic elements of use case are: the use case is name and description, the actor in three forms: person, another system or hardware device, and then trigger. Okay, trigger is the cause, anything that causes the use case to begin. Okay, preconditions. Preconditions, another name for preconditions may be prerequisites. Prerequisites meaning, let's look at the university structure of prerequisites. If you're doing CIN603, the prerequisite is you should have done CIN502. Okay, so CIN502 is the prerequisite. So likewise, let's go with this out. It is common practice to create smaller, more focused use cases, breaking the whole process down into parts. It is important to define clearly what needs to be accomplished before each use case begins. Remember what needs to be accomplished before each use case begins. The preconditions define the state the system must be in before the use case commences. So when you look at preconditions, another name that rings into my brain at the moment is prerequisites or predecessors. Okay, predecessors. Remember predecessors from per chart? That means something needs to be done, and then you can move on to the next task over here. Now, in computing terms, if I have to define the word preconditions, basically it is a condition that must be true just prior to the execution of some section of code or before an operation in a formal specification. So that means something or a condition that must be true or that must be done, only then you can go and perform the next set of tasks. So that is what precondition would stand for. Don't worry too much about this, okay? Not so important at the moment. Just do understand predecessors, prerequisites, preconditions in generic way. Normal course. Okay, now this is also an additional information I will suggest you as not so important stuffs. Okay, the next part of use case is a description of the major steps that are performed to execute the response to the event, the inputs used for the steps, and outputs processed by the steps, produced by the steps rather. The normal course lists the steps. So when you talk about normal course, what it does is basically lists down all the steps that a system will do. If I can go ahead a few slides, this is an example of your normal course, and it uses narratives to actually do this. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. Let's just hop in here, and then once we go back, go to the next set of slides, then I will more about it. Object modeling with unified modeling language. So the use case, remember we had few things. Okay, so in the use case modeling, you have an actor. So actor is generally denoted by this stick figure. Okay, so the actor comes in three forms. You have a person, you may have another system, or you have a hardware device, and all three will be represented through the use of these stick figures. Okay, next up, the symbol for a use case is an oval. So when you have a use case may be like place an order. Okay, here, place order. So the name generally goes inside this oval. So the use cases are represented by this oval symbol. Okay, now with the use case, generally it has a label or a description to it. For example, place order, that's a description. Why is a description? You're looking at a verb, doing word. Okay, so place, that means it's a verb, it's a doing word. So place order, make airline reservation. So what are you doing? You're making an airline reservation. So you're doing something, you're performing an action. So again, it's a verb. And then you have change pickup address. So you're changing something, you're forming some form of, you're doing some form of action. So again, there's a verb. So remember, always when you're giving your use case name or description, what you have to do is you always have to use a verb. Okay. And finally, use cases can also interact with other use cases. What it simply means is, if you look at the diagram, your passenger is trying to make an airline reservation. So this is your actor, which is a passenger. It is trying to interact with the use case in terms of making an airline reservation. So there's a likely chance that one use case can also go and interact with the other use case. That means an arrow will be pointing to that specific, to another use case, from this use case to another use case. So that will denote that your use case is interacting with the other use cases. All right. So these are, like I mentioned, this actually comes in more effective once you go around making it on your own, or when we'll go around discussing how use case diagrams actually grow. It's not so complicated. It's pretty simple. It's just that you need to understand the concepts first. Use case modeling. When the outcome of one use case is incorporated by another use case, we say that the second case uses the first case. Use case description. When you identify use cases, try to group all the related transactions into a single use case. Now, you have normally, sometimes you have some incorporated or incorporation of use cases. Okay, what it simply means here is, first point is that sometimes you have use cases which have something called as, what we had discussed earlier, preconditions. That means your first use case must be done first, only then you can proceed to the second use case. So that becomes your predecessor even. Now, use cases must have a description. Okay, yeah, like I told you about this. So this is your symbol for use case. It must have a description by order, or place order rather. And all related use cases or transactions can be grouped. Meaning, if you feel that you have use cases which are very similar to one another, you can group them up. So let's say you have a series of use cases which just deals with one common thing. What you can do is you can group them up and call them by a single use case instead of having multiple use cases. Now remember, the more amount of use cases that you have in your use case diagram or your use case model, it'll make things more and more complicated, because there will be way more interactions from the use case to from the actors to the use cases. So the lesser, the better. So you have an example of what a use case might look like. Okay, now use case diagrams. Okay, so this is the entire thing is called a use case diagram. And then you have system boundary. The system boundary is represented by this rectangle that you're seeing. Okay, so that means your use cases generally go inside the boundary and your actors are outside the boundary. Now you have actors on the left hand side. So all the actors on the left hand side, these are primary actors, and the actors on the right hand side, so these are external actors. External means they are outside the organization, and these are within the organization. After you identify the system boundary, you place the use cases on the diagram, add the actors, and show the relationship. So something like this. This is an example of a use case narrative. So it can also be called as a normal course. So normal course is generally, have a look at it. There you go. So your normal course is basically all the list of steps that incurs when a actor is using the system. Now we can have that. Together with that, you have the preconditions, the post conditions, and all the exceptions. And these all can be listed down in something called as a use case narrative. So what a use case narrative does, it graphically describes who will use the system and in what ways the user expects to interact with the system. This again is important. So please try to learn what use case narratives are. Okay, is just a way in which it describes how the users will interact with the system and which events will take place at what point in time. Object modeling with unified modeling languages. You have a class diagram, evolves into a physical model, and finally becomes a functional information system. Each class appears as a rectangle with the class name at the top, followed by the class attributes and methods, cardinality. Okay, now after this, we have some more diagrams. We have a class diagram, we have a state transition diagram, we have an activity diagram. Now, what we'll do is we'll read this, however, treat these as not so important stuff. Okay, our major focus is on use case, but with use case, we have some other types of diagrams that generally come under UML diagrams. Just no class diagrams, no state transition diagrams, activity diagrams, and use case diagrams. They all come under UML diagrams. So I'll briefly go and describe them. So you may write down the definitions as per the slides, or you can hear up from what I'm saying. Now with class diagrams, the major purpose is that it is used for general conceptual modeling of the structure of the application. So with class diagrams, what it does, it has a logical diagram laid out first, and the same logical diagram is then turned into a physical model. When we say logical, is something that is in form of a blueprint, something in form of a paper-based diagram. But when you talk about physical, that's the actual system that is being developed. So your class diagrams, what it does, it shows the general structure in a logical form, and that is then converted into a physical model. So when you have the physical model, finally becomes a functioning information system. And this is the diagram associated with class diagrams. Okay, don't worry about it, not so important. The next that we have is state transition diagrams. So state transition diagrams, it describes the behavior of the system. That means how the system will actually go and behave. So example over here, so somebody is trying to open up a new account and makes the first deposit. So if the account is active or existing, okay, so what are some of the actions that will take place? So this is a state transition diagram. It describes the behavior of the system. Okay, also please, like I mentioned earlier, these are not so important steps. Our main focus is only on use case. State transition diagrams, the small circle to the left is the initial state, or the point where the object first interacts with the system. Reading from left to right, the lines show directions and describe the action event that causes a transition from one state to another. The circle at the right with a hollow border is the final state. Activity diagram. Okay, now activity diagram, what they do is they portray the control flow from the start point to the finish point, showing the various decision paths that exist while the activity is being executed. Simple terms, what it does, it shows how data flows from the start point to the end point and what all activities are executed within the start point to the end point. Okay, so that is activity diagram. Now activity diagram, okay, sequence diagrams, state transition diagrams, activity diagrams are dynamic modeling tools that can help a system analysis understand how objects behave and interact with the system. Case tools. Object modeling requires many types of diagrams to represent the proposed system. Creating the diagram by hand is time consuming and tedious. Tedious means boring, okay? Or like it takes a lot of time. So system analysis rely on case tools to speed up the process and provide an overall framework for documenting the system components. Now, case tools, this is important, by the way. Now, CASE stands for Computer Aided Software Engineering. Let me repeat that. Computer AIDED, AIDED, software engineering. What it does, it provides automated assistance for software development. Now, if I have to put this down in a much more simpler way, instead of you drawing all these diagrams by hand, so there is what we call as case tools. So this is a software that allows you to create all these through the use of a computerized system. Now we have some softwares which basically make use of case tools, for example, Microsoft Visio. Now we were supposed to use this software in CIN603. Unfortunately, Microsoft Visio does not come free with Microsoft Office package. It needs to be purchased offhand. So therefore, we will not be using Visio. Instead, we'll be using those softwares which are available for free. In other words, we'll be using Microsoft Excel. Now, the main goal for case tool is to reduce time. It also reduces cost of software development and enhancement of quality of the system developed. Okay, so reduces time since you're not doing it by performing it by hand. It reduces cost as well. Why cost? When it consumes more time, it consumes more days to get it done. So it will also need a lot of people to work on it. So if you have one person who actually is familiarized with case tools, he or she can get the entire thing done within a day or two, and only one person can perform the same task. Organizing the object model. You should develop an object relationship diagram that provides an overview of the system. That we will do in terms of use case diagrams. You should organize your use cases and use case diagrams so they can be linked to the appropriate class, transition, state transition, sequence, and activity diagrams. It is much easier to prepare a diagram now than to change the software later. Summary introduces object modeling, which is a popular technique that describes a system in terms of objects. The Unified Modeling Language, UML, is a widely used method of visualizing and documenting an information system. At the end of the object modeling process, you organize your use cases and use case diagrams and create class, sequence, state transition, and activity diagrams. Now, what all things are important from here? We've finished our slides, by the way, is first of all, you need to know what is UML diagram. Okay, and what is its purpose. After that, you need to know what are use cases, okay, and where they are used and how they are used. Moreover, by the end of this chapter, you should also know what are some of the common elements that are enlisted under a use case diagram. In that case, we have a actor. So the actor generally comes in three types. You have a person, another system, or hardware device. You have an action event, which is called use case, by the way, and it is represented by the form of an oval. And remember, use cases always need to have a description associated with it. So when you are giving a description, your description may begin with the use of a verb. And that's it. Those are the important things from this week's lecture notes. Pretty simple, not too much. Okay, just 19 slides. I tried my best to keep it as simple as possible so that you actually are able to grasp the concept of use case before we actually draw them. All good, everyone? Now, next up is on PERT charts. Now, last week in our lab class, we had worked on one of the PERT charts, whereby first of all, we created a work breakdown structure tree, which resulted into something like this. Okay, now this is your WBS, by the way. So based on your WBS, you will create your work breakdown structure tree. And from your tree, you have to go and create a PERT chart to find the critical path. Now, very similar, you will have to do this in your project as well. Work breakdown structure tree. So when you start working on your PERT chart, so first of all, you have to give a label as WBS tree, and from your tree, you have to go around creating a PERT chart. So after you've done your PERT chart, you will have to determine what is a critical path. So with your critical path also comes in your total number of days or your total duration of the entire project development phase. All good, everyone? Now, for pet choice exercise 2, is there anyone who would like to give it a try? Anyone who'd like to give it a try? Let's go and divide the task. So we have total of 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. I think the easiest of them is question number 4 and question number 1. The difficult ones are question number 2. Question number 3 is also very, very easy. So first of all, who would like to go and create a WBS tree? Now what I will do is I will give you access to actually try and I'll give you access to work on my spreadsheet here. I'll give you remote access, by the way. So if there's someone who's interested, you can draw it out in this Excel spreadsheet. If you go wrong, don't worry, you're learning. Any volunteers? We have 7 participants. Any volunteers? Now, I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to volunteer, else I'll start calling out the names. Anyone would like to try it in? First of all, how many of you are, okay, is there anyone who is using a smartphone to actually attend the Zoom classes? Anyone here is using a smartphone, a mobile phone to view the Zoom classes? No? Okay, so that means all of you have a computer. All of you have a computer. Somebody just left. All of you have a computer. Okay, now, Ganesh, I will try to give you a remote access from my end. Just try and see if you're able to control my screen from your end as well or not. Okay, so hold on very quickly. Okay, try moving objects on the screen. Janesh, you with me? Janesh? Okay, I'm still trying to connect with Janesh. Is there anyone else who'd like to try it out? Musharat, you there?
Sir.
Okay, Musharat, can you hold on? Just let me give you the access and see if you are able to control objects on my screen. All right, go for it. Okay, you are? Yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, try typing something. Okay, it works. Okay, great. Would you like to give it a try for the WBS tree?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Musharat. Okay, let's give it a try. So far, I will be speaking and you can continue. So we have a work breakdown structure. So you have activities, predecessor, and duration. So with the activities, so you have activities A to J, and there are some predecessors and duration with it. So what Musharat is currently doing is she is putting down the activities and she will try to link it up with their successors and predecessors. Probably you can, what you can do, Musharat, is just label them like A, B, C, D first, and then you can get the borders then.
Okay.
Are you using a mouse or are you using a trackpad from your laptop or your computer?
From the laptop.
You're using the trackpad from the laptop?
Yes.
So that's making it a bit difficult for you, right?
Yes.
Okay, just give it your best. Give it your best. See what all you can do, and then if placing in board is difficult, I can place it from my end.
Okay. See, this is
While Musharat is working on it, the rest of the class, you can also unmute and help her out. Okay, you can unmute from your end and help her out if you feel that she's making an error. Just let's try to make it as interactive and collaborative as possible. Yeah, have it in the same line as J and I.
okay.
For sorry, for J, have it in the same column for H and I. Yeah, so that will make it easy for you.
Okay.
Ronish, is she on the right track at the moment? Shannon, you there? Okay, good to see that you're using Format Painter. That will make you work a bit more easier. Okay, so once you have, yeah, go on Format Painter again and then put it on E. Right, again, you have to go to Format Painter. It just paints it once, eh? After that releases it from the cache memory.
Yes. I think I'm gonna buy a mouse next time.
It's okay, it's okay, it's fine. It's fine. Also, it will be a bit slow in controlling because with the remote desktop connection, it slows down from your end a bit. Do you want me to place the arrows if it's difficult for you?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. You can still stay connected. Thank you for your efforts, Musharat. So, so you have A, B, C. So you have A, B, and C, which is there. All right. Now it has no predecessors, therefore it's not linking to any of the previous tasks. So this has been well done by Musharat. Now after that, Musharat has given in the activity D. So the predecessor is B. Okay. So from here, I'll go into insert and then shapes, and then I'll try to pick up an arrow. So from here to here, that's how it connects. If I want to make my arrow straight, it wasn't straight. So if I would try to make it as straight as possible, I'll press and hold the shift key. So that will give me a straight line. And then I'll remove the click and then remove my finger from shift later onwards. So activity D, the predecessor is B. Activity E, the predecessor is C. So I'll try to copy and paste this. Will make our work easier. All right, so that's fine. Now, next up, you have activity F and G, which is the successor of activity A. That means these two come from activity A. So very quickly, I'll copy this and then I'll paste it here. And then paste it up all over. And there you go. So is this what you had intended to do, Musharraf?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, Next up, you have activity H. So the predecessor is F. So I'll just copy this and paste it out. Moreover, you have activity I. The predecessor is G. After that, you have activity J, and the predecessor is D and E together. So it will be something like this. And I'll copy and paste this. So my source will be E and the recipient is going to be J. And this is what I have. So is it okay, Musharraf, or would you like to perform any other changes in this?
No, sir, it's good.
Okay, thank you. So I will cancel off the sharing. Okay. All right. Thank you, Musharraf, for your efforts. Really much appreciate that. Now, next up is finding the critical path. Okay. Now, is there someone who'd like to volunteer to perform the critical path? Anyone would like to volunteer? Now, decide if you want to volunteer or not. Till then, I'll just make a simple model for that. So you have LE start and then LE finish, EF. ES stands for LE start, EF, LE finish. Likewise, you have late start, LS, and LF for late finish. Over here, you have duration. Is it? No. You have activity here. And at the bottom, you have duration. All good? Now, you should know this once you have the work breakdown structure tree done. So that means you'll have the same structure underneath it, but you'll have to use this particular model. So I'll place it down so that whoever is doing it next becomes easy for you. Okay. And you have for activity B, you have something like this. For activity A as the predecessor, you have something like that. And activity J, I might have it like this. Better it goes in the middle. There you go. And quickly, I'll go and place the arrows. This is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You need to have it for H. And this is I followed by J. There you go. All right. Any volunteers now? So this is 6, 8, 5. For activity D, our duration is 13. Activity E, our duration is 9. Activity F, our duration is 15. Activity G, our duration is 17. Activity H, our duration is 9. Activity I, our duration is 6. And activity J, our duration is 12. So let me just put all of these center aligned. Okay, and likewise, can have it something like this. Select all of them together and center aligned. Better. Okay, any volunteers, anyone? Any volunteers quickly? Now, can I have someone to have it for early start and early finish, and the other person to have it for late start and late finish? Ronish, would you like to try for early start, early finish?
Okay, sir.
Okay, let me just quickly share, do a remote connection for you. Okay, all good. You can try now. So what Ronish is doing at the moment, he is listing down all the activities. Sorry, the activities have been listed. He's trying to come up with the AD start and any finish figures. So activity A, he has put in the AD start as 0 and AD finish as 6. Now this is correct in terms of, since there is no predecessor, so always your activity will start with a 0. So how do you get a early finish? Is early start plus duration. So 0 plus 6 gives you 6, 0 0.8 gives you 0 plus 8 gives you 8, and 0 plus 5 gives you 5. So far, he is on the right track. Thank you, Ramesh. So next up is activity B. So as you have noticed, activity B is the predecessor for activity D. So the early finish from activity B has been dragged down to activity D. So Ronesh has listed down the early start for activity B as 8, which is correct. So 8 plus 13 gives a value of 21. Likewise for activity E, the early finish in activity C, which is the predecessor, is 5. So 5 has been brought forth. So 5 plus 9 gives you a value of 14. Now activity F and G, their predecessor is activity A. So the early finish from activity A was 6. So the early start for both those activities are going to be 6. So activity F, 6 plus 15 gives you a value of 21. And activity G, 6 plus 17 gives a value of 23, which is correct so far. Activity H, the predecessor is F, okay, and the early finish for activity F is 21. So 21 plus 9 gives 30, and 23, which is the early finish for the predecessor activity G. So 26 plus 6 rather gives a value of 29. So that is also correct. Next up over here is activity J. So the predecessors are both D and E. Now, when you have two predecessors, what the previous activity will have to be noticed is that both the predecessors need to be completed, then you may proceed. So in that time, what happens is you have the values 21 and 14 for early finish. So what Ronish has done, he has taken forward the value of 21, which is correct. So 21 plus 12 gives a value of 33. So that is definitely correct. Thank you very much, Ranesh. Thank you for your effort. Now, any volunteers? Any volunteers for the finish? Late start and late finish, anyone? Any volunteers before I call out the names? Musharat and Ronish, I will count you two out since you have already contributed. Now, all of you will get a chance to contribute over here. So whoever contributes first, he or she wouldn't be asked to contribute later. Shannon, would you like to try the reverse order of the events? Shannon, you there? Not there. Okay. Monish, would you like to try and give it a go? If it's wrong, don't worry. If you get it incorrect, it's all right. We're still learning. Monish, you there? Janesh?
Okay, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you,
Yes,
Monish.
sir.
I'll give you access and you can try it out. Monish. Okay, you can try it out from your end. Thank you. Now, with the late start and late finish, we generally start from the opposite order. That means you move from the right and to the left. So whatever timing that you have finished with, or whatever duration you had finished with, that becomes your late finish for that specific ending activity. And then instead of adding, we subtract. So what Monish is doing at the moment is very much correct. So for activity F, I, and J, he has picked up the early finish time and stated it as late finish, and now he is subtracting them off. So with the subtraction process, what is happening now is he is subtracting the late finish with late start. Sorry, late finish with the duration, so he's getting the late start value. So 30 minus 9 gives a value of 21 for activity H. Activity I, Monesh, you can continue. I will be giving commentary from the background. And for activity I, 29 minus 6 gives you a value of 23. For activity J, 33 minus 12 gives a value of 21, which is correct. Thank you. For activity F, it's you'll notice is that the late start value for the successor event is 21. Successor event or activity is H. So late start is 21. It is dragged off to activity F, which becomes the late finish. So 21 minus 15 gives you a value of 6. Thereafter, it's 23. So 23 for activity G. So 23 minus 17 gives you a value of 6 again. And Monesh, now at the moment, he's attempting activity A. So activity A generally has 2 successor events, which is F and G. So the late start values will become the late finish value in activity A. Right, you are correct now. Thank you, Janesh. Monesh, rather. So 6 minus 6 gives you a value of 0. Now moving on to activity D. So the late start for activity J, which is the successor activity, is 21. So 21 becomes the late finish values in activity D and E accordingly, which Monish is doing correctly at the moment. So 21 minus 13 gives you a value of 8, and 21 minus 9 gives you a value of 12. Correct. Now for activity D, okay, you will be pulling out the late start value, which is 8. That will become the late finish value in activity B. So 8 minus 8 gives you a value of 0. And activity C, the late start is 12. So 12 minus 5 gives you a value of 7. And that is pretty much correct. So thank you very much, Monish, for your effort on this. Thank you. All right. Now, next up, who would like to give it a try and then find out what is the critical path? Now, remaining in our list, we have Danish and we have Shannon. So Jainesh and Shannon, any one of you would like to find out what is the critical path, and together with that, what is the total duration of the project? Jainesh and Shannon, are you able to hear me? I'm not able to get any form of feedback from these guys, so we'll go ahead. Now, to actually find out the critical path, you need to ensure that your total float is equals to 0. So what is a total float? Total float is with what you do is your starts plus the finish, you should get the value as 0. Now, how do you get the value for starts? It's late start minus early finish. For finishes, for late finish minus early finish. So 0 minus 0 gives you a value of 0, which is here, and 6 minus 6 gives you a value of 0. So 0 plus 0 gives you a value of 0. So this becomes part of the critical path. Now 0 minus 0 also gives you 0, and then 8 minus 8 also gives you 0. So 0 plus 0 gives you a value of 0. So this is also part of the critical path. Now 7 minus 0 gives you a value of 7, and then 12 minus 5 gives you a value of 7. So 7 plus 7 gives you a value of 14. So this is not part of the critical path. So this is incorrect. Okay. Now, I mean, not incorrect, but not included in the critical path. Next up is 8 minus 8 gives you a value of 0, and 21 minus 21 gives you a value of 0 as well. So when you add those two zeros, it gives you a value of 0. So this also forms your critical path. After that, let's try this one. 12 minus 5 gives you a value of 7. So when you get any other value apart from 0, you should know that that will not be correct. So 21 minus 14 gives you a value of 21 minus 14 gives you a value of 7. So 7 plus 7 is equals to 14. So this is also not part of a critical path. After that, we hop into the next activity, F. So 6 minus 6 gives you a value of 0. 21 minus 21 gives you a value of 0. So 0 plus 0 gives you a value of 0 as well for your total float. So this becomes part of a critical path. Now, 6 minus 6 gives you a value of 0. 23 minus 23 also gives you a value of 0. So 0 plus 0 gives you a total float of 0. Therefore, this becomes part of a critical path. 21 minus 21 gives you 0. 30 minus 30 gives you 0. Total float is equals to 0. Therefore, becomes part of a critical path. Likewise, 23 minus 23 gives you a value of 0. 29 minus 29 gives you a value of 0. So this is also part of a critical path. Here, 21 minus 21 gives you a value of 0. And then 33 minus 33 gives you a value of 0. So when you add those two values together, you get a total float of 0 as well. So therefore, in this particular project, these are your critical paths. So you have A followed by F and G, and then you have H, and then you have I. Moreover, in alignment with that, you have another set of activity running, which is B, and then D followed by J. So all these activities become part of the critical path. Now you have to place the arrows properly to ensure that they are aligned well. So you have activity A. Together with that, you have running F and G, very much similar. And then you have these two activities. All right. After that, you have activity B, which is also running in together. So B is the predecessor and the successor is D. And then D acts the predecessor for activity J. So this is your critical path. Now you must be thinking, it's not one path, it's more than one path. Yes, you can definitely have that. Now, next comes the next question. What is the total duration of the project? The total duration of the project is, any guesses?
33.
33. Thank you, Musharraf. It's 33 days. Now, why 33? And remember, you have two paths running together. So, whatever time it will take to finish all of it at once, that would be the critical or the total number of duration. So in this case, the highest number is 33 days. So that's our total duration. Now, the next part of the question is, what will be the total duration if the project is delayed by 20 days? So your delayed duration is going to be very simple. 33 plus 20 gives you a value of 53 days. 33 plus 20 is 53. So that is your delayed duration. Now, critical path is not so difficult, right? It's pretty simple. So all you need is your work breakdown structure. Once you have that, you need to create your work breakdown structure tree. Once your work breakdown structure tree is done, then you need to start working on your PERT chart. Now, when you're working with the PERT chart, please ensure to get your activity here, the activity model. Please ensure this is correct. If you fumble up with the abbreviations here, okay, things may go wrong. So early start, early finish, late start, late finish. Okay, so have this done or learn this properly. Once you have done that, after that you will create your PERT chart in the extended form of the WBS tree. So you have this. Once you have that, try to find out your early starts and early finish. Once you reach the very end, move the other way around from right to the left hand side to find out your late finish and late start. Once you have that, then you can go and find out the total float. Finding total float is very simple. It's the starts plus the finishes should give you 0. And how do you find the starts? So late start minus early start. How do you find out the finishes? Late finish minus early finish. So it should give you value zeros from both ends. So 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So wherever you have a total float as 0 for that particular activity, you have that particular activity forming part of a critical path. And once you get that, you are supposed to list down your critical path in form of a graphical view. This is a graphical view, by the way. And then finally, the common questions are what will be the total duration and what would be the duration if the project is delayed by the number of days. Be very careful in terms of duration. Always check this out when it says what is the total duration. Always go and check to see whether it's in terms of days, weeks, or months, or years. Just in case, if it's asking you the total duration and you said 33, let's say you said 33 days instead of 33 months, your answer is wrong because 33 days is not equal to 33 months. Okay, so your answer will go completely wrong over there. So this is like 1 mark, and this is also 1 mark. So please ensure you know this and keep this in your head very, very carefully. All right, any questions, any queries? Anyone?
So
Yes, Musharraf.
here we are given our work breakdown structure, but when we're doing our project, will we be the ones deciding which task is gonna take how many days?
Yes, you will be the one deciding that. So what you'll have to do is in the major project, you will have to create the work breakdown structure on your own. So at the moment, you have something like activities A, B, C, D till J. Over there, you'll actually be listing down what is the activity. So if you do not want to write down, like for example, over here, if you have preliminary analysis, so if you do not want to write down preliminary analysis, so you can give A dash, what is the name of the activity? So you can represent that by A. So what you will have to do is in your project, you'll have to understand the entire SDLC phase first, and then from there, you'll actually have to list down your work breakdown structure. So the time, those can be dummy figures. The time can be dummy figures, but do note this, Okay, dummy figures, but I would suggest you to go and do a bit of research in terms of how much time would it take for you to create something in the websites. Now, this is one of the drawbacks for our I would say our education students in CIN603, especially in terms of if the project is something on web-based. Because with the other CSI students, they have done CIN535, in which they learn how to create websites. They have done CIN628, in which they also know and learn how to create websites. So I would suggest when you are forming your groups, try to include a CSI student in your group as well. So that will give you, they will give you a sort of hint or idea how much time will take what in the website development phase. And they have created some websites on their own as well. In CIN628, they have created a website, not large scale, but small scale, but they have a good set of idea. So yes, I think we have 3 or 4 education students. We have Musharat, you, we have Munish, and there's another, this another working student. She's a school teacher. So she's also in the class. Roshni is there as well. So I would suggest for you guys, try to have at least a CSI student in your group as well. That's why I've thought of it. I had thought of it beforehand. That's why I thought to have this in terms of groups. Okay, Musharat?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, it's not going to be difficult. It's going to be very interesting as well. Why? Because you'll actually learn in this entire phase of the projects, you'll actually learn how one would go around creating websites and how one would go around marketing websites and also doing sort of business on social media sites. So it will be very handy. And if you are able to grasp this well, later onwards, you will be doing a unit named CIN707. Is it in your program structure, CIN707? I think so.
Yes, sir.
IT project. So what you can do is later onwards, you can use the same set of guidelines to actually go around doing a project in CIN707. So when you do CIN707, most likely either myself or Mr. Bimal Kumar, he would, I think most likely Mr. Bimal Kumar will be taking this course, CIN707. So what you can do in that time, you can discuss this idea with him that we had done this in CIN603 and would like to carry on this project for CIN707. So that will become handy for you. Same goes with CSI students, CIN707, you can do that, but with CSI students, the expectation will be higher. You actually might have to go and create a booking engine for it because these guys actually know the coding end for that. Okay, so yeah, so to answer your question, Musharat, yes, you'll have to create your own breakdown structure and you'll have to give in your own duration. So duration can be in terms of days or in terms of weeks. I would suggest for the assignment, go in terms of weeks. That will be easy. But if you feel that there are some places where you might need to switch over to days, see whichever suits you the best. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Musharat. Any other questions? Anyone? Monish, you okay there?
Yes, sir.
All good from your end?
Yes, sir, all good.
Okay. Ronish, what about you? Any questions in regards to the project at the moment?
Not yet, sir, but if I have any, I will just ask.
Okay, sure. Dinesh and Shannon, sorry, I'm not able to communicate with you guys. If you're able to hear me, so if you have any questions and queries, feel free to let me know and also start forming your groups. And I would suggest for CSI students, please also try to incorporate well with our education students as well. Okay, because I know Monish and Musharat very well. These two are hardworking students. So try to get along with them and see if you can mix around and form good groups. Okay. All right, then. If no other questions, this is where I'll knock off the class for today. So thank you very much. We had good 3 different sets of things done in the class. We have discussed our project. We've gone over the lecture notes, and also we have summarized the work for per charts. Now, come our class on Thursday, we will be going over our tutorial 2 discussion, and straight after that, we'll start working on Gantt charts. Now, Gantt charts is way more simple compared to per charts. So I'll see if we need 1 week or more than 1 week to actually work on Gantt charts. Probably will take 2 weeks for Gantt charts. So yeah, so that you learn the concepts very properly for Gantt chart as well. All right, everyone. So thank you very much. I'll see you all on Thursday. Till then, take care, stay safe, and start working on your projects. And also take time out for your mid-semester exam revision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thanks.